Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle CX/UX Leadership Forum channel and brand marketing. My name is Michael with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A quick reminder, to ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. And now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Drea Jackson, Vice President of Experience and Design with M&T Bank. We're excited to have Drea for her keynote presentation titled, Two Paths Converging, Short and Long-Term Strategies to Enhance CX. Drea, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome, and over to you.
Hi, thank you, Michael. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Just briefly, M&T is a regional bank. It's on the East Coast. And as for me, I spent several years in marketing, and then I transitioned to CX/UX about 8 years ago. So today I'm presenting a case study about how I went about building relationships with my marketing partners over the last year and a half, and how, like, through cultivating those relationships, my team and I have been able to influence the way that our marketing partners think about what they're doing and how they inform their decisions about improving the customer experience, particularly on the digital front. So I guess we could move to the next slide. And I really wanted to ground you in this timeline to illustrate how long it actually takes to influence change. But before I get into the timeline, I just want to explain a little bit about I work on a cross-functional team, and the team is really trying to accomplish, they want to build out kind of a product and service offering that's similar to Citigold private banking. And so that would include everything from premium banking to financial advice to lower rates for loans for more affluent clients. And in the summer of 2021, the offering was pretty much in its infancy. It was not really very well defined, but the segment head and the marketing manager at the time decided that they really needed to get something out on the website. And so they decided kind of on their own to put a landing page out there. And they really veiled it in privacy. They didn't, in secrecy, they didn't really share a whole lot of it with us, not just me, not just UX, but like everybody that was working on the team. And I don't, and whenever I expressed any kind of concern, I got a lot of, well, we just need to get it out there. And so they did. They put out a landing page in the winter, and they didn't do any usability testing. I'll go a little bit more into that later. But also something else happened in the winter, and we got a new marketing manager. And I saw that as a good opportunity. And then in the summer, this marketing manager, she really helped us. By that point, she was an evangelist for user research. She helped us start prioritizing web-based work on the website based on some heuristics that my product designers did, and became a champion. And so then finally, this fall, we've been able to really make some huge progress in updating the site. So that's kind of the timeline. And I just wanted to point that out because, again, this is a year and a half. And so going back to this, in January of 2021, the what I consider to be a dreaded MVP was launched. And I started asking questions, and these are very basic UX kind of questions, actually UX and marketing questions, like, what's the call to action? What are the use cases? What's the central message? How are we measuring success? And then, those questions, like, I got a little bit of, a little bit of answering. But then I asked this question, I was like, well, did you run it by a single user? Did you run it by one person that would be a customer of this product and service? And then things got very quiet and awkward. And then the answer I got was, well, it's just an MVP. And so this is why I'm not crazy about MVPs, because like if you think about it, an MVP is supposed to be like viable. So like I've soured on these things over the last few years, because if you think about the page, you have to ask yourself, is it viable? Like, is this landing page, does it have a central theme? If it doesn't have a clear CTA and it's not measurable, is it really an MVP? And so when when I heard that they were working on it over the summer, I did offer my team's assistance. And again, it was met with silence. And so, and I do think that a lot of that stems from this fear that we're going to slow them down. And then, this, I'm not understanding that we'd already done a lot of research that could have been applied to this particular page to improve the outcome of the MVP. But, it is what it is. Like, that's the past. I couldn't do anything about it. And so one of the reasons also that I didn't have my team, I didn't really dig in really hard, is my team was working on developing a prototype for a financial advisor sort of matchmaking tool. And that research didn't end until December of 2021. And so when I found out that the developers weren't going to pick up that work, I was like, what are we going to do now? So in addition to the landing page, the entire financial advice section of the website had been launched without the input of a single user. So anyway, so in the meantime, like in addition to the landing page, like I said, the entire financial advice section of our website was launched without the input of users. And so I was like, well, this would be a really good time for my product designer to do a UX audit. And I do want to step back just a little bit. The reason that the site was launched without any user research is not because the digital marketing team didn't want to. They actually had UX budget and it was cut. And so they were really just doing the best they could with what they had. So if you have, partners that are doing things and you just don't understand why, my advice to you is to just don't get too judgy. Like, you really don't know how things shook out before you got involved. And there could have been reasons for it. So anyway, back to the advisor selection tool. It was on hold. I was like, well, let's do a UX audit. We have a little bit of time for this. It was also good practice for my product designer, because he hadn't really had a lot of opportunity to do these kind of fundamental UX methods. So he did that on the financial advisor section of the site. And again, I want to go back to the true game changer. Sort of while this is happening, we get this new marketing manager. And while we start doing the heuristic, all the different UX audit research, we start to involve her, and we started to invite her to the research readouts and explain what it is that we're learning and why these things are important. And she really, we were really fortunate, because she welcomed our effort as we onboarded her to our team. And so I'm moving on to slide 5. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the UX evaluation, but these are the things that we were doing and keeping her informed about. So I'm just going to run through really quickly 3 of these methods. Heuristics, it's like a rubric, really, to help determine if a web page meets basic industry standards. So, like, as an example, does the system status available? So if the page isn't showing, or if you get a 404 error or something like that, is that actually showing up, or is it getting hung? And then it could also be something like, is there a consistent, like if you have a really big website and you have multiple teams doing forms, like loan forms or, applications or whatever, do they all look the same? Do they all feel the same? Do they all work the same? Are the labels the same? And so that consistency, that's another thing you would look at in heuristics. So I had him do that. And then he did a content inventory. which is just kind of like a snapshot. This is really tedious, actually. It's a snapshot of every web page. You've got the URL, you get their metadata, you get the assessment of the content, like what is it, how is it performing, and so on. And it's a really great way to understand actually what's out there and what people are seeing. And then in the simplest terms, the information architecture, it's just the site navigation. It's like, how are the pages grouped? How are they labeled? How do different people navigate to different pages? So, so for the first half of the year, really, the product designer dug in really deep into those three components of the UX audit. And he, and then we kept, like I said, we kept the marketing manager informed about all the things that he was learning. And she was totally bought in. And so she actually informed the digital marketing team about the heuristics work as it was evolving. And they started making changes to the site based on it. So this was all very exciting. This is like, we're getting in good with them. We got to PI planning for Q3. And, our kind of a senior leader didn't really want to continue with the work. But this marketing manager is like, look, she really, after seeing the UX audit and the value of it, she's like, we need to do the usability testing. That's what the UX team is telling us to do. And so she pushed hard and helped us get the usability testing prioritized, and we did it. And then moving on to slide 6. And we actually studied two things. We studied the advisor, the financial advisor section of the site that was part of the UX audit. And we also looked at the usability of that MVP premium services page that I had negative feelings about. And we invited the marketing manager and really anyone else that was in the business who was interested to observe what we were learning, to observe the usability tests. We invited them to work with us on the insights afterwards, on developing them, just so they were really involved and engaged, and we were all working from the same understanding of the data. And so some of the things we discovered while we were testing was that we didn't offer enough details about our products and services, and so it was hard to make a clear case. We weren't making a clear case for what differentiates us from the competition. And of course, that's a problem. This is a very competitive environment. And then users weren't sure they could trust us because they didn't understand the connection between the bank and our financial advice area. And we also have a partner organization that's really integral to our offering. And they didn't understand how all of these different, players fit together. And so that added confusion and it decreased confidence. And then another really important thing is they didn't understand what the process was. Like what were the steps? What was going to happen when they submitted the contact us form? How are they going to be able to select their own financial advisor, like the one that would fit their needs? And that last question was really interesting because it dovetailed with the research that my team had been doing in 2021. And they knew exactly what information that a customer would want to determine which financial advisor to use. They knew everything. They knew what kind of pictures to use, what content needs to be there, what the call to action needed to be. And so we already had all that information too. And then finally, that MVP page, we looked at that. And it was really, I hate being really critical because like I said, I know these people were busy and they were trying to get things out. They were trying to show value. But what happened was when we did the research, we discovered that these users were confused. They didn't see how the different products and services connected with one another. And they had questions like, well, how do you get them? Who's eligible? How much does it cost? And while we were reviewing the feedback, not the marketing manager, but the marketing coordinator is like, oh my God, this is just terrible. This is terrible. I can't believe, that this is how people are reacting. And I was like, the best part about the web is the best part about the web is that you can change things. I mean, it's just electronic. And so, so anyway, she was deflated, but I said, we have put together a baseline and now we know what to improve. And that's the most important thing. So I'm moving on to the outcomes, which is slide 7. So, so we learned all these great things. We knew what to do. And again, when it came to Q4, we ran into resistance from senior leadership. But the resistance wasn't, we don't want to use this. We don't want to use this research, make these changes. It was, we don't have the support of digital marketing. They're too busy. And by this point, I had gotten to know the digital marketing team well enough that I went to them and I said, well, do you have bandwidth? And they said, well, do you have, ideas, basically? And I said, oh boy, do we have ideas. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll dedicate some of our agency resources to help us build out like a, high fidelity prototype to test. And, like with the full-on content, new images, everything. And so that's where we are right now. My product designer is starting to put together the usability test for that. We'll do one round of usability there, and then we'll, make some changes and be ready to go next quarter to actually update not just this premium services page, but the whole section of the site. And so I'm thrilled. I honestly, this is kind of like one of the best things happen. And I know that I don't have much time left. So I'll go really quickly. These are my words of advice. Whenever you're having a conversation and people are, talking about from the business perspective, always ask what the customer, how's the customer going to use it? What is it, what's going to make this design useful from the customer perspective? How are you going to measure success from the customer perspective? It drives people crazy, but I do it all the time. I also need to know what is driving your business partners. What, got to know what's making them tick, because that'll help you figure out how to help them help you. And then I'll just look at this last piece. I'll just go to the last one here. Is like, always be on the lookout for opportunities. And the opportunity is not really for you, but it's for you to support and influence your business partners. And reuse previous research if you can. I know that's kind of weird, but okay, I'm done talking, I think. And so I can take questions now. I'm sorry, I guess I moved on to slide 8 and I didn't tell anybody. So surprise.
Thank you, Drea. This is such an insightful presentation. We appreciate you being here. So as a reminder, audience members, you can still enter questions. And we're going to now review some of the ones that came through. So our first question, we are struggling to translate our user experience research into actual improvements. Do you have any advice for us?
Can you repeat that question?
Oh, absolutely. We're struggling to translate our user experience research into actual improvements in our company. Do you have any advice for us?
Not knowing all of the details, if you have ways to apply that research, I guess one thing that I always do is try to make it real to people. I know we talk about storytelling. The easiest story to tell is the user journey. So I would probably start with the user journey map, and I would take that with me everywhere. Have real concrete details in there. You want your audience to feel your customer's pain. And then my other piece of advice would be, if you can find 1 or 2 nuggets of that research that you can apply, specifically to a page, let's say, I don't know if you're working on a form or not, but let's say you have a form and that it's not heuristically, it's not done well. And you discovered, if I just put in this one favorite button, it'll work. Figure out a way to do a usability test to show the before and after, because people like to see the application of your research. I don't know if that helped.
Excellent, thank you so much. Okay, so our next question, what's the biggest mistake you've seen companies make in trying to develop a long-term CX improvement strategy, and how did they get past it?
I'm actually going to turn it around a little bit. this is what I see. I see designers being purists and unable to look at what's happening from the business perspective and build, like incremental building. And so I'd say that one, like I said, be empathetic to your business partners is one thing. And then I think another thing is, and this is because, and I'm just going to say it pisses everybody off, right? Quick wins. I need a quick win. I need a quick win. And what I've discovered that works best for me is to try to have two work streams going. You have a work stream with the quick wins, and then you have another strategic work stream going. And then you help to define, like usually what will happen is you have like your old systems that have to keep running while you're trying to build this new system. I know this has got to be familiar to everybody, right? You've got your legacy systems, everybody wants to retire it. And then you've got this brand new system that, you're trying to build. So it's a matter of figuring out how to negotiate, doing the quick wins to make senior leadership happy. And I see that as kind of giving yourself cover for doing the real strategic work. So if that makes sense, so do that, find the quick wins that you can work on that make it look like you're busy and you're getting things done, but also make time for that strategic stuff. Did that help?
Excellent. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, and we've got one more question. How do you see the field of sales and marketing evolving over the next couple of years?
Oh my God, what a great question. Like, how do I answer that? Because I'm not in sales and marketing, but I can tell you from my experience in marketing that the biggest difference I ever made was actually sitting down with the salespeople and identifying what is not identifying, defining what is a suspect to you, what is a prospect to you, what is a lead, what is a qualified lead, what is an opportunity, and what do these things look like? And then, what are the attributes of these different people? And then once you have that and like a lot of clarity, and then you can say, like for me, I was like, once as a marketer, once I have delivered you a quality, like a qualified lead, I'm done. So, this is your job now, to the salespeople. So if you don't have that basic funnel defined and clear roles and responsibilities, then it's always going to be a struggle. But if an organization can get those two things aligned and make and help sales and marketing become partners rather than adversarial, it's going to be, it ran a lot smoother for me. Now, this is like, again, that's so totally separate from from UX, but I will tell you that salespeople are some of the best people to talk to as a UX researcher if you cannot talk to a customer. So
that was excellent. Thank you so much. So that was our last question. Do you have any final thoughts? Do you want to close it out with?
I don't really. I mean, I hope you you heed the advice to not, to I don't know, to not be a purist. That is definitely the downfall of design, and it's painful and it's true. And I think if you can, like for me, I feel successful when I know that I'm not in the room and everybody else is thinking, what would the customer think? Or even better, what's Drea gonna say? What would she say if she was here? And and I know I've been successful if they're gonna say, they know I'm gonna say, well, what would the customer think? And then they've begun to think that way and start using some of my tools, then I know that I've been successful. So if you can get your partners to think like you, then you're in good shape. You're in really good shape. You're successful.
Thank you, Drea. That's wonderful insight. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you for this presentation. And we can wrap it up. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everyone for joining us for another fantastic keynote. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Drea, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.